So your VA loan is wrapped up in a property. What do you do next? Today on Major Money Matters. Welcome to Major Money Matters. My name is Major. I'm the host of Major Money Matters, and I'm a mortgage broker powered by Edge Home Finance. And if this is your first time to the channel, I encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe so you get notified every single week when we post a weekly update about what's going on economically, and when we post informational videos like this one, where we have conversations and give you information about how to navigate this market in interesting ways. And I do have a special guest today, realtor extraordinaire and a good friend of mine, Miss Brooke Rodriguez. She is a part of Team Kristen Schramme in San Antonio, Texas, formerly transitioned from Hawaii back to San Antonio, where she grew up and where she knows the lay of the land. It was interesting having you out here, Brooke, because you actually killed it out here in Hawaii. And now you're back home. So how you doing? Good to have you on.
Yeah, thank you. It's so good to be here. So good to be back home and really excited to get going.
Awesome stuff. Well, I'm really happy for you and your husband and the kids getting settled in back in San Antonio. And we were having this conversation because you come from a military family. I'm prior military, and we work with a lot of military buyers. And let's just lay the lay of the land here, because many of our military buyers currently have homes tied up in a VA loan. So when we were doing loans, or we were structuring deals back in 2020, 2021, we'd refinance that VA loan to a conventional loan, use the VA loan again. And that option is still available, and there's some situations where it makes sense. But there are other options that could be available because conventional rates may not be advantageous right now to take that loan out. So number one, make sure you're looking around and make sure your loan officer is giving you all the options. But let's talk about some other options that buyers may have, military buyers may have, if their VA loan entitlement is currently used up. And the first one I'm thinking about is just look at other loan programs. So which is what you guys did, and we'll talk about specifics on you at the end. Your family at the end, Brooke. But the first one is USDA. You can look at FHA, other loan programs that might be available in your area. Now, Brooke, you and I would agree that the VA loan, if you can use it, is the best thing going.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Absolutely. So that's the best thing going. But take a look, look at other options and stuff like that. FHA, more expensive. Don't really like it. But it does get you into a home. So number one, look at FHA, USDA, and non-qualified mortgages, non-QM, that could help you get into a home. The other is remaining entitlement. Now, Brooke, do you guys have one VA loan right now or multiple? And have you guys used your VA loan multiple times?
Yeah, absolutely. So we used our VA loan the first time when we bought at Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida. We knew that we wanted to buy a home in Hawaii. And so we refinanced that VA to a conventional investment loan. Just like Major said, you have to have, 20%, 25% equity, lots of different things that your lender needs to know about. But yeah, we absolutely wanted to maximize our full VA loan entitlement for our Hawaii house because you have so much entitlement there.
Absolutely. And if you're buying a home in Hawaii, which you and I, Brooke, are both licensed in Hawaii, where if you're buying a home in Hawaii, that is definitely something in most cases, you want to make sure your VA loan is free and clear, ideally, if you can. Make sure it's free and clear so you have the most amount of options. But just like you did, Brooke, you can refi to a conventional and then move on to and put your full entitlement into a home. So remaining entitlement. Now, remaining entitlement calculations, did you guys investigate that option, Brooke, using remaining entitlement when you bought your home here in Hawaii? Or was it just, hey, I know we need to free it up?
No, absolutely. We sat down, with a different lender at the time before I knew you. And yeah, we talked about what it would look like, how much would be left, because each state has different conforming loan limits, which is what we didn't know. So we needed to have that conversation to see what our options were. And yeah, my husband and I just decided at the end of the day it would be best to just go ahead and refinance that Florida property to a conventional investment loan and to completely free up our VA loan.
That's so important. That's so important, Brooke. I'm glad you bring that up. That each state has different conforming loan limits, and the conforming loan limit does matter if you have part of your VA occupied. So you know that if you don't have any, if your VA is free and clear, you basically have free reign, and you can buy a home for as much as you income qualify for. But if you have part of your VA loan that is occupied, then you have to deal with, the remaining entitlement based on the county loan limit. So if, let's say, somebody has a home and your first home was where, Brooke?
Tyndall Air Force Base, Panama City, Florida.
Okay, cool. So you're in Florida. Now, if you kept that, now it's possible that you kept that home in Florida, and if you were moving directly to San Antonio, you may be able to use your remaining entitlement in San Antonio because you don't need as much to buy a home in San Antonio.
Cost of living is much lower than Hawaii.
Absolutely. If you're buying here in Hawaii, you're going to be restricted. So number one was look at a different loan program. Number two, look at using your remaining entitlements if it makes sense, and you need to talk to a lender so that we do the calculation. I won't go deep into the calculation right now. It can be confusing. But number three, and I want to talk really about what you guys decided to do, Brooke, and just maybe some areas that you could have done and you maybe said, hey, that's not for us at this time. You guys decided to go with a conventional loan. Now, first, Brooke, I want you to talk about the mindset of saying, hey, in your home here, I happen to know it's a really, really nice home in a really, really nice area. But talk about the mindset of saying, hey, we do want to buy in San Antonio. Talk about that mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. So because we've been able to be taught about how to maximize our wealth by going from primary residence to primary residence to primary residence, basically everywhere that we go, it was not really ever like renting was, option 3 or 4 for us. We really wanted to exhaust every effort because my husband and I, we believe in the real estate market, whether it's appreciating at 3% a year, 20% a year, maybe even depreciating a little bit. We know that in the long term, the way that you really win in real estate is owning it for a long time, but you just have to start. So we were like, yes, we want to do it. How do we make it happen? And that's when we went to major. So
that's important because, real estate, you're talking about a long-term investment. And, when you talk about if you're on the active duty side, you talk about the BAH that you're making and stuff like that, whether you're paying that to a VA loan or whether you're paying that to a conventional loan, you still are getting BAH that the military is giving you in tax-free money. And you just allocate that money to help build your wealth so that you can build basically a portfolio that you guys have built, Brooke. And it's a very, very interesting portfolio with your home here in Hawaii and your home in San Antonio. So you guys decided to go conventional, okay?
Yes.
And you put down a down payment. Now you were fortunate enough to have the cash for a down payment. Okay.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, we had to figure out how the best way to get that cash. And the only way that we were able to do it was to sell that Florida property to be able to have the money for that down payment. But if we didn't have that Florida property, we would have had to figure out, how to pull from investments, whether to get, gift money from family. So that first initial property was really what helped us do everything else.
And that goes back to our point for our military families. The important thing is to get started. You don't know where the market's going. You don't know. I pontificate on my channel about where the market's going, but really nobody really knows. But the fact of the matter remains, real estate is a great long-term investment. So the point there is to get started. So you sold your Florida property that allowed you to have the cash to put down on this property. Were there some other options that in your mind you considered that you really didn't do?
That's a good question. there are always different ways to get creative.
Mhm.
But because, we were just really trying to think of ahead, we were able to have that down payment because we knew we wanted to buy at our next location. We knew we wanted to keep our VA home loan tied in Hawaii because it was going to be, we're really not ever going to live anywhere as expensive as Hawaii. So there definitely was some strategy and forethought to that.
Sure, absolutely. So I have this conversation with people who are like, hey, I'm moving to this area. My VA loan is at 2.25, 2.5, 2.75. I don't really want to touch it in this environment. But what we have seen over the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen a substantial amount of equity in those homes. So one option may be that you take out a HELOC on that home that you actually own, and that gives you the cash to be able to put down on another property on a conventional loan. Now, there are some programs out there where you can do 10% down and you don't have PMI. Okay. You can also do 5% down and you will have PMI for a certain period of time. But I'm telling you, Brooke, the lenders I work with, the PMI even is, really, really small in comparison to the amount of equity that you're gaining. So, people have this thing about, I don't want to pay PMI, which, nobody wants to pay PMI. Nobody
Right.
wants, you don't even want to pay car insurance or anything. You hate it. It's like just in case some crazy stuff happens. But it is an option for you to get into a conventional property. So if somebody's moving to San Antonio or moving to Hawaii, Brooke, what would be your advice to them if their VA home loan entitlement is currently used up in a property? What's the main advice you would give them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the first thing is if you have any interest in buying, no one can make you buy, but if you have interest in buying and you just want to know what your options are, call me, call Major in either of those locations, and we can just start that conversation knowing that we really just want you to make the best decision for your family, whatever it is.
Absolutely. And this conversation needs to happen early, especially if you're talking about doing a HELOC or something like that. If you're 6 months out, you need to start having that conversation. I mean, if you get to your duty station and you're saying, hey, I need to have a conversation about whether I buy or something like that, either A, you're going to be in temporary living for a long period of time, or B, you're going to get frustrated and say, hey, I'm not going to do it. So have the conversation early. And a conversation is just a conversation. All we're doing is discussing your options. So,
Exactly.
a 10-minute phone call, 15-minute phone call with me or Brooke can help you figure that out. So, Brooke, thank you. Thank you for joining us for the first time. And we work together a lot. Brooke is fantastic as an agent. And I really can count on her to really look out for the best interest of her clients. I will personally tell you guys that I have had people on my team that personally work for me that have said, I want to buy a house, and I referred them to Brooke. So, she's absolutely amazing. If you're in the San Antonio area or the Hawaii, or you're going to Hawaii, make sure you look her up. She will absolutely do you right and take care of you and your family. Thanks for joining us, Brooke. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Major. Always a pleasure.
All right. Talk to you guys soon. See you next time on Major Money Matters.